In the spring of 1983, Chrysler began advertising its new Dodge Caravan as a garageable alternative to the station wagon. The vehicle was built on a truck chassis that qualified for the lighter federal fuel standard. Within a decade, the same regulatory distinction had turned the minivan and its taller cousin, the SUV, into the dominant family vehicles on American roads. The law had been written to reduce oil consumption after the 1973 embargo. Instead, it helped shift the light vehicle fleet toward larger, thirstier models, whose sales share rose from under 20% in the early 1980s to more than half by the late 1990s. In 1973 and 1974, the Arab oil embargo had cut U.S. supplies by roughly 5%. Gasoline prices jumped from 36 cents to 54 cents a gallon in a single year. In December 1975, President Gerald Ford signed the Energy Policy and Conservation Act. The act created corporate average fuel economy standards administered by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Lawmakers set an initial target of 27.5 miles per gallon for passenger cars by model year 1985. They left light trucks defined, at the time, mainly as pickups and cargo vans on a slower schedule that began around 17.5 miles per gallon. The distinction reflected the view that commercial vehicles served different economic purposes and could not be redesigned as quickly. At the time, fewer than 1 in 5 light vehicles sold was a truck, so the loophole appeared modest and manageable. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration published the first car standard of 18 miles per gallon for 1978 and raised it in annual steps. Manufacturers responded by downsizing engines, improving transmissions, and shedding weight. Average car fuel economy climbed from 13.5 miles per gallon in 1975 to 28.5 miles per gallon by 1988. Light truck standards rose more slowly, reaching 20.7 miles per gallon by 1996. Early compliance reports showed the car fleet meeting or exceeding targets. Both the Carter and Reagan administrations praised the program for cutting projected oil demand. A handful of analysts inside the Department of Transportation noted that the truck definition rested on vehicle attributes rather than actual use. The observation did not alter the regulatory text. Automakers quickly realized that any vehicle classified as a light truck could be built to a lower fuel economy target and still count toward the company's overall average. In 1983, Chrysler certified the Caravan and Voyager as trucks. General Motors and Ford followed with the Chevrolet Astro and Ford Aerostar. By the late 1980s, the same regulatory category was being used for four-door sport utility vehicles, whose passenger compartments were marketed directly to families. Because each additional truck sold relaxed the pressure on the car fleet, manufacturers invested engineering resources in truck platforms and advertising budgets in truck imagery. Between 1980 and 2000, the share of light trucks in total U.S. sales rose from 18% to 52%. The net effect on fleet-wide fuel economy was measurable. After rising steadily through the 1980s, average miles per gallon for all new light vehicles flattened and then declined slightly in the 1990s, even as individual car models became more efficient. Second-order effects compounded the shift. Larger, heavier SUVs changed road design standards, increased the height of headlight beams, and altered the mix of vehicles in fatal crashes. By the time the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration began studying the safety consequences in the late 1990s, more than 40% of new vehicle registrations were light trucks. Congress attempted to close the gap in the 2007 Energy Independence and Security Act. The act directed the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to set attribute-based standards that varied with vehicle footprint. The change reduced the incentive to enlarge a vehicle simply to qualify as a truck. The Obama administration later tightened the rules further, projecting a 54.5 miles per gallon fleet average by 2025. Those targets were rolled back in 2020 and then reinstated in 2024. Each change produced new compliance modeling rather than a single stable rule. Meanwhile, the installed base of SUVs and crossovers continues to dominate sales. The average curb weight of new vehicles has increased roughly 1,000 pounds since 1980. No subsequent policy has reversed the physical transformation of the U.S. fleet that the original car-truck distinction helped set in motion. Regulatory distinctions based on fixed categories invite reclassification rather than genuine redesign. When the cost of meeting a standard differs sharply across categories, market actors will migrate volume toward the lower cost category, even if that migration undercuts the original goal. The corporate average fuel economy experience suggests that durable policy requires either uniform standards across substitutes or continuous adjustment mechanisms that anticipate redefinition. The same principle appears whenever rules attempt to separate good from bad versions of economically interchangeable products. Electric vehicle credits, building, energy codes, and emissions trading categories all face similar pressures. How might today's emerging rules for autonomous or electric vehicles embed similar category boundaries that future markets will simply walk around? That wraps today's case. The lessons travel further when you share them. Send this episode to someone who'd find it useful. We'll see you tomorrow. And before you go, this show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts covering tech, science, markets, and more. If you enjoyed today's episode, give Planetarian Daily a listen. Daily breakthroughs in science, health, and longevity. You can explore the whole lineup at narrownetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.